So today we're going to be making the cocktail that killed Magellan. Well, at least it's named after the man that killed Magellan. Today we're going to be making the Chief Lapu Lapu. Then we're going to take this classic Tiki cocktail and reimagine it as a more balanced and elegant modern cocktail. I'm Andy, let's do this. Chief Lapu Lapu was once the ruler of what is now known as the Philippines, and he is most famously known for the Battle of Mactan, which happened on April 27, 1521. Magellan and his Portuguese forces tried to invade Mactan. Chief Lapu Lapu and his forces said, "Nah, I don't think so," and they repelled the Portuguese forces. In fact, they didn't only repel them, they finished off a lot of them, including Magellan himself. In fact, they had finished off so many Portuguese that by the time the Portuguese retreated to their boats, they only had enough men to crew 2 out of the 3 ships they landed with. And in fact, because of this, a lot of modern Filipino society actually views Chief Lapu Lapu as a hero, and there are many different monuments erected in his honor all across the islands. Now flash forward to 1940, and this cocktail named the Chief Lapu Lapu begins to appear on a lot of Polynesian menus. But the question begs, who actually created it? Now, some reports say that it was created at Don the Beachcomber, and if we look at the facts, that's actually a great possibility. Don actually employed a lot of Filipino immigrants, so it would make sense that one of his servers or bartenders from the Philippines would create a cocktail in honor of one of their national heroes. Now, other reports have it coming out of the Royal Hawaiian Hotel in Laguna Beach. And thirdly, we actually get reports that it originally appeared on a menu at the Tropics, later renamed the Luau, owned by Stephen Crane in Beverly Hills. Now, despite who actually created this cocktail, there does seem to be a standard recipe. And for that recipe, we're going to need dark Jamaican rum, lightly aged rum, passionfruit syrup, simple syrup, orange juice, and lemon juice. Now, the standard recipe is actually pretty large, and I'm pretty sure it's meant to serve 2 people. I'm only one person, so I'm actually going to cut the recipe in half, but let's grab a shaking tin and let's shake one up. In your shaking tin, add 1 ounce or 30 milliliters of lemon juice. Next, add 1.5 ounces or 45 milliliters of orange juice. Then add half an ounce or 15 milliliters of simple syrup. Then add half an ounce or 15 milliliters of passionfruit syrup. Now add 3/4 of an ounce or 22.5 milliliters of dark Jamaican rum. And lastly, add 3/4 of an ounce or 22.5 milliliters of lightly aged rum. Add some pebble ice to your shaking tin and give it a nice whip shake for about 5 to 8 seconds. Grab a large snifter glass and open pour in. Now top with more pebble ice. Then we're going to garnish with an orange wheel and serve with a straw. And there you have it, the Chief Lapu Lapu, or actually half order of the Chief Lapu Lapu. Let's give it a try. Now, a lot of you know my feelings on this type of flavor profile. Honestly, I think it's just overly sweet and one note. All I'm really getting is passion fruit with a touch of orange. We have a lot of sweetener in this. We have a full ounce between the simple syrup and the passion fruit syrup, plus 1.5 ounces of orange juice. That's doing a lot to add a lot of sugar to this cocktail. The lemon juice is barely doing enough to cut through at all. And honestly, it could stand to use more. And the rums are pretty much lost amongst all of this juice and syrup. So honestly, I think it's not that great of a cocktail. I think we can make a more balanced version, presenting the same flavor profiles, but in a modern way. So let's see what we need to make my modern riff on the Chief Lapu Lapu. To make my modern riff on the Chief Lapu Lapu, you are going to need lightly aged rum, unaged overproof Jamaican rum, Aperol, passionfruit Gardenia mix, lemon juice, aromatic bitters, and salt solution. Now obviously I'm changing up the rums, and for the rums, instead of going with a lightly aged rum and a dark Jamaican rum, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be keeping the lightly aged rum, but instead of mudding it with these kind of like burnt caramel chocolate notes from a dark Jamaican rum, we're going to keep that funk by going with an unaged overproof Jamaican rum. For the orange juice, we're going to sub that out. Typically orange juice does nothing but overly dilutes a cocktail and adds sweetness when it doesn't need to be there. And it usually gets lost, to be honest. Instead, we're going to be using Aperol, a bitter Italian liqueur. And the Aperol has strong orange notes. We're going to get that same flavor profile, but it's going to add a layer of complexity and bitterness to help temper the sweetness of this cocktail. Speaking of sweeteners, instead of using passionfruit syrup and simple syrup, we're going to be taking a page from Don himself. Now, some reports say that this originally was created by Don, and if that's the case, I could possibly see Don going this route if he was still alive today. Don used something called Gardenia mix in his classic cocktail known as the Pearl Diver. What we're going to be doing is basically taking his Gardenia mix and a culinary recipe for passion fruit curd and combining them into a passion fruit Gardenia mix. To make the passion fruit Gardenia mix, you will need 120 grams of melted butter, 60 grams of passion fruit puree, 120 grams of sugar, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and 2 grams of 210S. To make the passion fruit Gardenia mix, in a blender, add the passion fruit puree, vanilla extract, 210S, and your sugar. Now, if you don't have 210S, feel free to split it up to 1.8 grams of gum arabic and 0.2 grams of xanthan gum. We're now going to blend this on high until all the sugar has dissolved. Now we're going to add the melted butter. Now we're going to blend again on high for about another 90 seconds until all the ingredients are incorporated. Now this makes about 8 ounces out of 50 bricks and we'll keep for about 2 weeks in the fridge. Now that we have our passion fruit Gardenia mix, it's time to build this cocktail. But before we do, I want to give you a little tip. Now, I would hate for you to have to create a specialty ingredient like our passion fruit Gardenia mix and then never be able to use it again. So what I'm going to do is give you a couple of examples of where to use this in other classic tiki cocktails. So the first one is the obvious choice. Put in a Pearl Diver. Swap out your traditional Gardenia mix for a passion fruit Gardenia mix. You'll have basically like a passion fruit Pearl Diver. You'll thank me later. Another place to use it is anywhere that regular passion fruit syrup is called for in classic tiki cocktails. Things like a cobra's fang, for instance, if you want to use that instead of fashionola. What it's going to do is it's going to keep that passion fruit flavor. It's going to add a great texture to the cocktail as well as a nice subtle hint of vanilla that I think will go really, really well with most of the classics that you'll see. But anyway, let's get to building our modern version of this cocktail. So grab a shaking tin. In your shaking tin, add 5 drops of salt solution, 2 dashes of aromatic bitters. Now add 3/4 of an ounce or 22.5 milliliters of lemon juice. Next add half an ounce or 15 milliliters of our passion fruit Gardenia mix. Now add 3/4 of an ounce or 22.5 milliliters of Aperol. Now we're going to add half an ounce or 15 milliliters of our unaged overproof Jamaican rum. 1.5 ounces or 45 milliliters of our lightly aged rum. Now into your large shaking tin, add 1 large cube and 2 small cubes. Now we're going to marry our cocktail and give it a nice hard shake for about 12 to 15 seconds. Now grab a chilled Nick and Nora glass and double strain in. And there you have my modern riff on the Chief Lapu Lapu. Now, before I go and sip this, I'm going to tell you this is not a Chief Lapu Lapu. This is a modern interpretation or a modern riff on the classic, taking the original flavor profiles and reimagining them in a different way. So I don't think it's worthy to call this a Chief Lapu Lapu. So instead, I'm calling this Magellan's Requiem because honestly, Magellan probably regretted the day that he landed on the shores of the Philippines, but I promise you won't regret taking a sip of this cocktail. Let's give it a try. So that is boozy, that is tart, that is sweet. The Jamaican rum from the unaged Jamaican rum is coming through just enough. It's not overpowering the cocktail. The lightly aged rum is doing a great job of lengthening out and making sure you know that there are booze in this. The passion fruit Gardenia mix is giving this thing such a wonderful texture. And then all the other flavors are playing so nicely together. The Aperol is bringing this level of orangeness plus a lovely bitter back note. And then of course, the salt is just enhancing all the flavors. So it kind of tastes like a passion fruit tart, but like in a boozy cocktail way. It's really good and I'm actually pretty proud of this one. Well, that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Next week, we're gonna be taking a look at a cocktail that I think I've done like twice on this channel already, the Port Light. But we're gonna be making a new version of it. Next week, we're gonna be making Garrett Richards' Red Sky at Night. Thanks so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, which I hope you did, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, follow me over on Instagram, Mixing Up Tiki, and until next week, you know the deal. Koli Maluna.